Hi, I'm Eric Jacobson, and this is my Things I Should Have Said video. So, over the summer, I interned at a company in Ypsilanti, Michigan, and I worked with several other interns while I was working there. And frequently, we would break for lunch together as a group, go get food, and then come back to the office. And one day, we were returning from lunch, and we walked past a homeless man sitting up against the side of the building asking for change. And we all said the same thing. We all apologized and said we didn't have anything in our pockets, we couldn't give him anything, have a good day, and walked past him. But one of the interns, and we're just going to call her Sarah because it's easier for me to give her a name, Sarah stopped and began to lecture the man about how rude it was for him to ask her and other hardworking people for their money. And then she went on to say that it wasn't her fault that he was lazy and didn't make anything of his life, and it wasn't her fault that she got to go to a good college and get an education. And her tone was clearly condescending, and I could tell that she felt superior and better than this guy. And she spoke to him like she knew that she was better. Like there was no doubt in her mind that she was just a better person. And so, without waiting for a response, she just turned around and walked away. And we were standing a few feet away because we had all passed. And she got to the group, and then we all just collectively turned around and went inside and continued on with our day. So, social inequality is the unequal distribution of resources, opportunities, privileges, um, things of that nature amongst people of varying social classes. So I found the situation to be a blatant example of social inequality because a member of a higher social class blamed a member of a lower social class for his own location on the social stratification system, or the hierarchy that individuals and groups are layered into based on social status. So Sarah wasn't just being mean in the situation. She expressed her prejudiced beliefs about members of a lower social status in comparison to herself. She acted as though there could be no other explanation for the homeless man's current social status aside from his own laziness. Like it was entirely his fault. It is much more logical to think that other factors were present in the resulting status the young man now maintains. For example, perhaps his social capital, his resources to people that can help him get a job or a home, find a place to live, is much lower than others for some reason. He perhaps does not have the connections that Sarah has, and that makes it harder for him. Furthermore, maybe the young man's ascribed status has prevented him from moving up the social ladder. The things beyond his control that he inherited at birth make up his ascribed status. For example, his family background would be an aspect of social status that could contribute to his social status in life. Perhaps he was born very poor or without parents that could provide for him. He never got an education because he couldn't afford it and his family couldn't help him. And he can't get a job now because he doesn't have an education. I think this country has the American dream mentality, and that in part perpetuates the social inequality that we've developed between social classes. The idea that anybody can become anything, and all those rags to riches stories that you hear, that gives us the idea that if you aren't where you want to be in life, then it's your own fault, and that normalizes the gap between wealthy people and poor people in general terms. Not everyone has the same social mobility or the opportunity to move up the social ladder in society to a better social position. And I think that solidifies norms about inequality because members of society with more social mobility take the advantage for granted and assume that it applies to everyone in society. So the fortunate circumstances that some of us can take advantage of do not exist for everyone, and the belief that it does is likely a contributing factor to situations like Sarah and Sarah's beliefs that the homeless man must be homeless because he didn't try to be something in life. He didn't get an education because he didn't want it bad enough, and he's poor because he didn't try. Socialization and lifestyles also contribute to the normalization of this inequality. Our lifestyle, meaning our behaviors, attitudes, beliefs, values, things of that nature, are all a result of our socialization. So on both sides of this equation, we can see how this might affect how members of a higher social class stick their nose up at poor people and how poor people see no reason to attempt to stop or disrupt the flow of inequality. If you're socialized to be a member of the upper class, you probably can't understand the plight of lower social classes. And if you're socialized to believe you can never get an education or a good job or have a home, that you probably don't see the point of trying to battle against the inequality that suppresses you. It's probably seen as just a normal part of your day. Obviously, I should have said something to Sarah when I saw what happened. I should have said something about her behavior towards the young man that day. And I suppose I didn't because I didn't know her well enough to feel like it was my place to say anything. And out of all the people I was with, no one else said anything. So I kind of just conformed to everyone else and chose to not involve myself. It seemed normal not to say anything, so I didn't. But I understand that if I would have, I might have helped show her that what she did was not okay. Our social structure is comprised of the norms, the rules, the expectations, the things that create patterns of acceptable interactions and roles within society to keep things orderly and organized. And additionally, our agency is our ability to make choices that contribute to our social environment. So those two concepts are related in a way that, from a sociological perspective, it can explain why I chose not to say anything when I witnessed something like this social inequality where I should have said something. I was given the choice to say something to Sarah. I could have stood up for the homeless man as he was being lectured, but I felt compelled to support members of my own social class, and I conformed to the behaviors of my peers by remaining silent and walking away with them. I felt safe within the normal proceedings of the social structure, where I pass the homeless man by on any given day and I reject his request for spare change. Although I would do it politely, I didn't want to move against the grain of everyone else like me. If I had the opportunity to go back, I would have politely but firmly interrupted Sarah and told her that she has no idea what has transpired for that man, and she has no idea why he is where he is in life. And the only frame of reference that she has is her own and her own experiences. So it's impossible for her to understand what it's like to be him. And for that reason, hopefully, if I had said something, it would help her see that she can't generalize her beliefs to everyone out there, and that her actions were an example of perpetuating social inequality and normalizing it to everyone around her and to herself.